me tell you about a friend. It's Craig LeBlanc where the good times never end. Talking Parks and Rec, it's a show you gotta know. Welcome one and all to the Daily Parks and Rec Show. It's the Daily Parks and Rec Show.
They will say, the job is great if not for the people. I could do this if not for the parents, if not for the administrative, stuff that we have to go through. If not for the people, and I can just focus on the kids, it'd be great. Conversely, I would say, my why is the people. You deserve good parks. You deserve, manicured park spaces. You deserve restored walking paths and biking paths. You deserve to have an aquatic center. You deserve to have a performing arts theater. You deserve to have free concerts. You deserve to have that. It's the people, right? Because that's who we serve.
Welcome back to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we celebrate the people and places driving the future of parks and recreation across the country. Today, we're spotlighting the village of Park Forest, Illinois, a South Chicago suburb that's setting the bar high for what community-centered recreation looks like. Leading the way is Kevin Adams, a powerhouse of passion and purpose in the parks and rec world. Under Kevin's leadership, Park Forest isn't just maintaining parks, they're innovating. From the iconic Park Forest Aqua Center, the beloved Jolly Trolley, to their top-tier public library, this department offers exceptional facilities that serve residents of all ages. And it doesn't stop there. Park Forest knows how to bring people together. Whether it's the exciting Park Pavilion Permit Lottery, the community favorite Main Street Nights, or the vibrant Main Street Music Fest, held in partnership with the 60th Annual Park Forest Art Fair, this town knows how to celebrate. And don't miss their elegant Mother's Day brunch and show, a cherished local tradition. If you're looking at how parks and rec can elevate a whole community, this is it. Let's dive in with Kevin Adams and Craig LeBlanc. All right, we are live again. This is Craig LeBlanc with the Daily Parks and Rec Show. We wrapped up and launched our maintenance, first maintenance show this morning, geared towards facility maintenance. But this is our pilot show, a leadership series where we do Monday through Thursday, and we highlight people like Kevin Adams and the works that he's doing over in Park Forest, but also his career. And one of the special things about Kevin is he understands, I think on a much deeper level, the general theme of parks and recreation nationwide, understanding the mission and vision of what are we trying to do in parks and rec, and how do we get a lot of our park systems on the same page, making sure that we're kind of all rowing in the same direction. So when we had our little pre-show call, I'm like, man, you're just such a great representative of the industry in general. Let's talk about that. So, Kevin, how are you doing on this fine Monday?
I'm doing great, Craig. Thank you for having me. It's truly an honor. I love your platform, the ability to go out here and give us as rec and parks professionals the opportunity to just talk about what we do and give us a little bit of a shine.
Yeah.
And so, first off, I want to start off by saying thank you for creating this platform, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I realized that as I started to get into creating media, this is not my original background. I'm actually an electrician with a tool pouch on by trade, and I transferred that into some engineering and some lighting and manufacturing. But I was just a working class electrician for probably the first few decades of my life before I got into running businesses and factories and Bitcoin and creating content. And I noticed this industry, much like you can look at it like there was days before ESPN, there were days before MTV, there were days before CNN, right? But now we have the possibility to create a network, a media company for an industry. And I did this in Bitcoin already, and I'm like, but this is a much broader, older, massive industry that's bringing tremendous good to their communities. And I'm like, well, if somebody else isn't going to do it, I'm going to do it. Shout out to Shonda
That's
Smith.
right. Yeah.
Shonda Smith over in Mobile, Alabama, kicked me off the ledge here. So I blame her for this whole thing. So thank you, Shonda, for encouraging me to do exactly what we're doing. Um, well, let's go ahead and dive in a little into the three pillars of NRPA. We were talking about this right before the show. This has kind of made a shift. So maybe talk about a little where we came from, and then we'll start just iterating and breaking down every one of the three pillars.
Yeah, absolutely. So NRPA created these three pillars, and once upon a time, let's say the 2017, 2018-ish, those three pillars at that time were community health and wellness, sustainability, and social equity. And so at the NRPA conference that took place in Atlanta in October, they unveiled that they kind of changed I guess, the verbiage of what each of those three pillars are, but really the purpose of each one really didn't change. And so now you have health and well-being, equity, and environmental resilience. And
Mm.
those are the three pillars I think that we kind of use that are suggested to be used as kind of the guiding principles for what we do in the recreation and park space.
Yeah, and it's so important to have, especially such a massive ship that, like an industry like parks and recreation, and but each city is pretty much its own little ecosystem. So as much as we say as an industry, which is what we're trying to accomplish, there's really not a lot of connectivity outside of just the spirit of what's
Right.
inside and the mission and vision that we may say, hey, this makes sense as a community to try to all row in this direction. But really, every city can operate its own experiment of how it accomplishes this. And that's good because we find ourselves in different parts of the country, whether you're inner city or whether you're kind of south, closer to the Mexican border, where there's a lot more Latino people, or you've got, big old cities like Chicago area and all the suburbs around there. You've got little country towns in Alabama. So the flexibility's important, but at the same time, there are some common missions that every park system is. So maybe we can dive into that first one, health and well-being. Let's kind of start there and pick that apart, try to expand on that idea.
Well, I think that's really when you talk about health and well-being, Craig. I think we're talking about really foundationally who we are, right? What do you do? Recreation and parks, combined, they kind of work together, right? It is providing services that are really meant to improve the quality of life for its residents or its users, right? And so I think when you think about what health and well-being is and how it promotes, I think, physical, mental, social wellness, right? You look at all the different ways that you can do that. And I think that as agencies, we look at active programming, that's our sports leagues. Those are your fitness classes, your yogas. But it also is, line dancing, it's taekwondo,
Mhm.
it's whatever promotes an active lifestyle, right? And I think you have to go the full gamut and that's sometimes the challenge, right? Is going from, zero up to, 90 plus, right? Is
Mhm.
how do you meet the needs actively for each of those different demographics, realizing that each one is very different, right?
Mhm.
But I think the expansion of health and well-being, has really been into the community health space, right?
Right.
And you in Illinois and in Cook County, we're used to the Department of Public Health, right? We kind of have an idea of that, but then it's kind of shifted into um, other parts of public service, and especially I think in recreation and parks, looking at ourselves as really community health advocates, right? What else can we do with
Mm.
our rec centers? Can we do blood pressure screenings? Can we, during COVID, right? We were distributing COVID-19 test kits. Some of our centers were, shelters for families that were displaced. I mean, we do flu shots. I mean, there's a lot of different things. In Park Forest, specifically, we do a medical loan closet. We once upon a time had a health department. We sunset that department and then shifted that into what we do with recreation and parks. But now, while many other agencies haven't gone that far, uh, we do a lot of the things that I just discussed. Mental
Yeah.
health. mental health outreach. I think, and there's a lot of different ways to approach that. There's a stigma around it, but I think every day, you have to be intentional about realizing that what we do and what we offer as what I believe is a core service is really for the entire person, right?
Mm.
It's I know NRPA they do this thing where it's called the 7 dimensions of well-being, and so it talks about like social, physical, intellectual, I think economic, emotional, and environmental, right? That's one person, right? That's one person. These are all the different things that make up who you are, and how do you break that down and address each one? And it kind of goes back to the old statement of how do you eat an elephant?
Mm.
One bite at a time, right? I
Yeah.
mean, like you have to break it down. And I kudos to, I think, NRPA for really being that guiding light for all these agencies across the country and in the military. I think to say, hey, we want to put some things out there that kind of brings all of these various agencies, and whether you're a rec department that's tied in with the municipality, whether you are a park district that's a separate taxing body, but how do we kind of connect all of us? Because what we do is really connect people in our community. So what are we doing to connect our agencies and the people that the pros that actually do it? So
Yeah.
um
I'd like to. So first, I just want to say that, and you can say you heard it here first if you hadn't heard it already, but the age of abundance has started. Some of you are starting to see a little bit of this in cars driving themselves, lawnmowers cutting grass, robots painting fields, AI collapsing entire departments of companies and
AI
industries.
glasses.
And let me tell you, um, there was an old mentor of mine, a business mentor, and he said, "Craig, when you solve your money problems, you're going to find your real problems."
Mm.
And the concept behind that is, if we are entering an age of a massive human abundance, where imagine all of us just find out that Aunt Susie left us so much money that now we have trust baby problems.
I need to
That
find Aunt Susie.
right. So now you're gonna have to find out, what's causing that depression, because it's not the money, because that's gonna be solved very soon, I think, as a human species. And so this is why we've seen an explosion, because a lot of this abundance has already started to hit massive chunks of the upper middle class, and it's going down into the middle class. And we just see explosions of this health and wellness industry, from yoga studios to workout facilities to saunas being put in all these. And so I think the industry that explodes is the ones that cater to humans now having to face uh, not having a community, because they're not working their tail off to put food on the table anymore. But now what is their purpose? Who's their community? How are they taking care of their body, both mentally and emotionally? And which industry has been on the job for 100 years? So I see. You think COVID was an uptick in park usage? Just wait till the age of abundance starts to mature. I'm already starting to see, at least in my park, run clubs and yoga, random run clubs and random yoga, things just popping up randomly out of nowhere. And so maybe talk to the critical role that parks are already playing, and the future role they're going to play in health and well-being as this industry just starts to come into its own.
Well, Kurt, I think you think about the generations and what's important. You breakdown of baby boomers and Gen Xers and millennials and everything else, but you look at millennials, you look at the next generation. You have a lot of the what's important to you, right? The old Whiffam, what's in it for me, what's important to me, has really kind of shifted. Where it was about money. It was about, money was, it was about kind of responsibility and what I need to do for others. But it was people that were tied to me. Where I think now you have a generation that is more of, hey, if more, as you said, right? Essentially the breakdown is there was an old rap song where it was more money, more problems, right?
Mhm.
You see your real problems when you get to a certain level. You start to see, like,
Mhm.
well, I didn't have this before,
Right.
right? You start to realize that life might have been simpler. And I think you have a generation now that is looking for that simple, right?
Mhm.
I'm a big advocate of the KISS principle. Keep it simple. Let's stop overcomplicating things. I
Mhm.
think this generation has kind of gotten it. It is the, do I need to work, the 40, 50, 60 hour weeks? I'm more concerned about my personal well-being, my happiness. And so when you think about that, I think you have to think about what we do. And as you said, the role that we play is, I think, is becoming even more prevalent in society, because they're realizing, I want to be more healthy, not just physically, but mentally, emotionally. Mental and emotional health was something that was almost taboo. No one really talked about it. Like, and now they aren't that generation. They're
Right.
like, hey, no, this is what I've seen the failures of my parents and grandparents, right?
Right.
I'm not going to do that. And then there's a disconnect because we came from different time periods and we learn differently. But
Yeah.
we play a very vital role in it. And I think that we are now starting to promote ourselves better, to
Right.
say, you
Well,
need that, we have you.
and I think growing up, where we were drinking out of hose pipes and we were never heard of a therapist and
Right,
just kind of rubbed dirt on it and kept going.
right,
I think when you're moving from more of a survival instincts, your parents are working nonstop just to get food on the table and to try to provide an education and maybe help you pay with a little car, something like that. When you're in survival mode, you don't even have time to think about how am I flourishing. But I think as the human race starts to evolve into flourishing mode, as we're in an age of abundance, the then the mental health starts to become apparent. A lot of times you don't realize you are fatigued, that you are not taking care of yourself till you're not running for your life. So once we all stop literally running for our lives, just trying to make ends meet, that's when it's like, oh my gosh, I have these injuries that I need to take care of. Now that I have the time to take care of my mental health, to build a strong community around me, to maybe give back. These are the things that you do after you've taken care of some basic human needs. And I'm starting to see more and more of the population exit this desperate attempt to, and they're also deleting things that are useless in their life. And I think that's what you're talking about. This generation is like, you know what? Maybe I don't need this massive house. Let me trade the massive house for more high quality of life
right.
and a healthier existence. And I love that this entire industry is ahead of the game. Like they are already starting to prepare for people to come into their parks that are looking for a higher quality of life, for connection with community. Um, and this is actually one of the three pillars of the National Parks and Rec Association, putting out this messaging. I love that. Anything else to add on this before we move to the next two topics?
No, it's, once again, I think it's kudos. Kudos have to be given to NRPA for really saying, I mean, how do we simplify all that we do in this space? Find three things that are paramount, right?
Mm.
And I think really, real understanding that the health and well-being aspect, because it was always just recreation and, hey, why do I do this? And I go outside and I go play basketball, or now I go play pickleball, whatever it is. But it adds to your quality of life,
Mhm.
and it is about making the best possible life that you can have for you, and realizing our role in that.
Mhm.
We are a core service. And I think that has really been, I can't say enough about, I think the importance of them putting this together, and then kind of giving us our marching orders to say, just to simplify it and focus on this, and let everything that you do fall into one of these three
Right,
categories.
right. Yeah, and such a massive industry with so much under uh, that they're responsible for managing. Sometimes it can really be challenging to come up with a simple mission and vision that the whole industry can get behind. So yes, kudos to NRPA for really taking upon themselves to kind of making sure that the whole industry is rowing in the right direction and understands their vision and mission and purpose. Let's go into environmental. I know this can be a lot of times often politicized, but I love how um, essentially the environment is when you're walking out of your house, do you want to live in like an industrial zone or do you want to be among nature and trees? And
Mhm.
which environment do humans flourish in that that empowers them, that they get energy from, not they're like feel like they're taxed. So imagine you walking through an industry that just frightens you, startles you, is toxic to you, and then think about walking through like a Garden of Eden. Okay, so Parks and Rec is on the Garden of Eden team. they're on that,
Right.
they're on that side. So maybe let's dive into environmental.
So, when you think about environmental resilience, that's, the new name for the pillar that once was. The question is like, what does it look like in recreation and parks, right? I think it really refers to our ability, to withstand, adapt, recover from the various environmental challenges, for our natural spaces and our infrastructure as a whole, right? Climate change was real. I think you've seen it. We talked about it pre-call about
Mhm.
how the seasons have changed, in Illinois and Chicago, right? But pollution, loss of habitat. How do we do all of this while continuing, to meet the needs of our respective communities, right? So, in practice, I think that what we're looking to do is say, hey, everything that we do have sustainability at the forefront, right? The Village of Park Forest has an office of sustainability. It's really kind of unheard of, really, not really kind of, it is unheard of in our region of the Southland for you to intentionally say, we're going to hire someone that focuses on sustainability and making sure that everything that we do within our organization has it at the forefront. So, how do you do that? Sustainable design, in our operations, using green infrastructure, making sure that we have energy efficient systems, native landscaping. We're using eco-friendly materials, right, in our parks and our facilities. Stormwater management, right? You're talking about rain gardens and bioswales and permeable pavements, wetlands, to kind of protect the water quality, you recharge it, for us, urban forestry and tree canopy, right?
Mm.
Planting, maintaining trees to reduce, the effects of heat, you improve the air quality, you increase the biodiversity. There's so many different things, preservation, climate adaptation. I think that's what environmental resilience looks like in practice. And I think I'm really proud that, as a community, we've been able to really focus on that and incorporate that into a lot of what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, and just on one of those topics, on our facilities maintenance show, we are gonna have a panel of some of the best arborists that have focused a lot of their career on urban forestry and even the science behind, and this is just one aspect of everything that Kevin just said when it comes to environmental, but let's just take one and focus on it. The effects that trees, especially mature trees, have on your mental and emotional health has been measured and studied, and Sevi's going to present the results on the show.
Every-
And it's literally you're living longer, you're extending your life because you're among healthy old trees. You wouldn't think something so simple, but if you look at the evolution of man himself, he grew up in nature, not around all this concrete and jungle and pollution and toxicity and everything surrounding us. Um, and being a resident of New Orleans, if you want to see a fantastic example, come to City Park. It's one of the oldest, greatest national treasures in America. We have the largest stand of live oak trees. Some of these things are like 16 feet around.
Right.
And you see people for generations proposing to their spouses, having picnics, family reunions. The Black community lights it up every weekend and has a barbecue under every tree. And, and it's everything that you can possibly imagine. And these trees are like the centerpiece. But maintaining these things, I mean, maybe touch a little on that. What is it like to maintain, sometimes 10,000 oak trees that are hundreds of years old?
I think I will say this when it comes to urban forestry, I think the thing that sometimes it's better to be proactive, but a lot of
Mm,
times, Craig, we become reactive. And
yeah.
I know that, what was it, 12 or so years ago when emerald ash borer became a thing, and we saw all of these ash trees just completely decimated, and communities having, 70% of their, especially here in the Midwest, of their, urban forestry canopy being one species, right? It's being one species, one genus, and it's ash trees, and then you lose 70% of it. Like, what does
Mm,
that do? I think that led to, I think, a renewed focus on urban forestry management,
mhm.
being intentional, making sure that you're diverse. We have 4,200 plus trees that we are responsible for in Park Forest. I mean, we are a community that is named Park Forest.
Right.
It's got to, right. It makes sense. We're going to have a lot of trees, right? We're going to have a large tree canopy. We had to be intentional. We had to invest. That means that is, hey, how much can we put into our budget to maintain and manage those trees? It's not easy. Some of it can be accomplished by the 7 parks, crew members that we have, but then some of it has to be, maintained by contractors, right? And that's
Mm,
pruning it. That is, when you have trees that are diseased, taking them out of your ecosystem, right? And then using it as an opportunity to bring in more diversity, find trees that work in your climate.
yeah.
But it is a huge undertaking. And I think some communities, especially newer communities, residents don't really understand that.
Mhm.
They don't understand the importance of having, a diverse tree canopy, and why having some of these large, massive 50, 60, 75-foot trees in your ecosystem are a benefit to you, right? It's a
Mhm.
benefit to you both individually. It's a bit, they come at a cost. I mean, but that cost is something that, it adds value, right? And
Yeah.
so it's a lot to maintain, but we were very intentional about how we addressed it. We partnered and had an urban forestry management plan done. $80,000 a year into our urban forestry budget. We're buying our own urban forestry vehicle, in the coming fiscal year. So we have an arborist on staff.
Yeah.
We are very intentional in understanding that our urban forestry provides value to park forest, even if you don't understand what that value is.
Mhm.
We do, and so as stewards of the community, we want to make sure that we're doing what's right by it.
Yeah, and I love how, the leadership inside of Parks and Recreation is taking it upon themselves to do what's best for the community, even if the community doesn't even realize that this is benefiting
Right.
them. You still are like, well, whether they know it or not, this is important and it defines our community. I know our trees in New Orleans, if we didn't have them, it would almost be unlivable because it's so hot down here. But shout out to Brian Myers, episode 100 in City Post Falls, Idaho. He's a certified arborist, also the park and rec director. Previously, he came from landscape architect, and now he's one of the bright shining lights in urban forestry and parks and recreation. He's going to be one of the guys coming on the show. But just to give you an example, they have, I want to say, around 14,000 trees in their community, and their cadence of visiting these newer trees that they've planted is at the 2-year mark they visit, at the 5-year mark they visit, and then they do it every 5 years for like the 10-year, 15-year, 20-year. And so during those 5 visits, they're able to say, okay, now this tree is on a healthy trajectory to go well into its hundreds. Um, but imagine 14 visiting a tree times 14,000 at the 2-year mark, 5-year mark, 10-year, 15, and 20. And he was talking about how they had to get a certain type of bucket truck that allowed them to had a squirt boom option so they could prune these trees properly, and they had to have a chipper, and then they had to have all this equipment that the city owned and operates and maintains, and every urban forest in every community has to address this issue to some capacity, or what they end up with is dying trees or trees planted right over a water line.
Yep.
So it's all about locating where the tree can go and then making sure you've got the right species, not a species that is not going to do well in your climate. And so every community is different. Every space is different, and these are massive forests. We're not talking about a couple hundred trees. Every city I've asked this question to is at least in the several thousands on up to 20, 30, 50,000 trees. So it is a massive undertaking, and you can neglect it and pay the price, or you can invest in your trees and it be one of the treasures of your community. Um, and as we've been speaking, that's just one. When we talk about environmental, that's one of the topics.
One aspect, right?
That's one. What's another one that's good to highlight as far as environmental?
I think once again, I think when you look at, I'll talk about, of course, our community, and in the, I want to say in the early 2000s, it might have been 2000, we installed a wetlands.
Mm,
When realizing that you have parts of your parcel of land that can't be developed, right? And then, but realizing if that land can't be developed, typically it's because it's a swamp, it's a marsh, right? It's not good soil for what you're trying to build there. I think on our end, we realized that we had a large parcel which was directly adjacent to one of our largest parks, and said, what can we do with this, right? And actually being intentional and putting in a wetland in that space. We're talking about 25 years ago,
mm,
where now some communities are just now realizing, like, hey, we should do this. There's ecological benefits to our community by having bioswales and wetlands, but not every agency has a landscape architect.
mm,
My background, as far as in this profession, came from the recreational side, right? It's a lot different than we're
mhm.
talking about the park side of our operation, although they work hand in hand,
Right.
two completely different sides of it, right? And so we were benefited because we had my predecessor was a landscape architect by trade,
Mhm.
right? And so I think him knowing all of this and bringing that knowledge base to our community added to what we were able to do, because without him, we probably would not have it, or we'd be thinking about right now, like, hey, let's do some research on how to create a bioswale. Like,
Right.
what are the benefits of it? With all that stormwater runoff that we're going to get, how does it add value to it? But
Mm,
I think that's right there when we talk about wetlands and what to do with stormwater management and understanding BMP's best management practices as it relates to that. I think that's something else that we, as professionals in this space,
mm.
we either have or we're definitely getting there. We're actively working. I think everybody is really kind of on the same page with that.
Yeah. And shout out to just the general leadership and community in Parks and Rec. I think it's just back of the napkin. There's roughly about 10,000 Parks and Rec departments in America. You figure every one of them has a director, most likely an assistant director, maybe superintendent. You're probably talking about 30,000, 40,000 people here leading the ship. And then there's about another 350,000 people under them making all this magic happen. But I'm blown away by how many directors are like, oh my gosh, we could save so much money if we had a construction management degree on payroll. Let me
Mhm.
go to college and become a construction manager so that my city can save that 10%.
Right.
Or let me go get into becoming a certified arborist, or and they just tool up. They're just like, what my city needs, I'm going to go figure it out and get it. And that's why I love the ability for this show to highlight some of the mastery that men like yourself have gone and pursued, and the city benefits from, and that embeds those systems like your predecessor into something that continues on in that community, so that when you walk into his shoes, he's already got an urban forestry certified arborist intelligence built into the system that you're running, and that can live on indefinitely. Because
Absolutely.
once you set up how to manage an urban forest or anything like that, it's just keep it going.
Yeah.
It's all you really have to do.
Yeah.
Um, and then about some of this stormwater management. So I know that especially in New Orleans, we have to pump out 100% of the water that hits the ground because
Mm.
we're in a bowl below sea level. But maybe talk a little bit about that environmental issue where you think about you've got rain hitting these hard surfaces where there's oil and gas and stuff like that from the vehicles, and then or parking lots, and how there are spaces where you can say, no, this is for rainwater collection, so we can kind of stay right where it's at instead of sending it through our water treatment plant
Mhm.
as one
I,
of the.
I I think it's really important, Craig. When we talk about, and stormwater management was something that was completely foreign to me, even though I've been in the field for 17 years.
Mhm.
It was something that I had to learn about, I had to be intentional about, right? It goes that word again, being intentional. Um, in our community, we found that there was extreme value in these low areas that we had that cause a lot of different problems for homeowners, right? You want to know, well, hey, my basement floods over here. Well, because you're in a low part of the community, right? But then what could we do that could take away some of that water runoff that is
Mm.
affecting our residents? And so putting in rain gardens, putting in bioswales, adding wetlands in certain spaces, I think added value to the homeowners, right? That's who we serve. Number one is our residents of our community. They are our most important stakeholder, and so us really being intentional in that regard of saying, hey, look, we've got issues that are coming from our residents that we're hearing from our residents, and looking to do the research of how we can meet the needs of them while also meeting the environmental needs
Mm.
of the community as a whole, that 30,000 foot view. And so we were able to, properly accomplish that in a lot of different ways. There's still obviously some work that can be done. But I know being in the Midwest and being in the Chicagoland region, as we said, we get all these seasons. We're going to get heavy seasons where we get tons of rain, and we get some years and seasons where you don't. But having that infrastructure in place has been a boon and a welcome addition to what we do.
Yeah.
I think in our community, and I think as we're continuing to understand it in the field abroad.
Yeah, and this kind of brought to mind how this industry thinks long term, and this industry is not it's not an industry that says, "Hey, we got to make money right now because if not, we're going to go bankrupt," kind of thing. I know that is, believe me, we have a whole show on Friday dedicated to that. So it's not that we're ignoring the finances, but a lot
Right.
of times when you're a homeowner in a business, you're like, I'm going to be here 5 years. The average ownership of home ownership is 7 years. Businesses have to focus on profit because if they get say negative too long, they have to close shop. So a lot of times they have to ignore, how their parking lot's set up, using something that's going to last 100 years. But the city absolutely needs to think 100-year time frame because the city's not going anywhere.
Right.
Somebody, and this is common ground that the community comes together. So you would never pay the same money for your home playground that a city pays for their playground just because you're not thinking, I need to build a 100-year playground in my backyard. But the
Right.
city, this is exactly how they think. And maybe talk about how, what's it like being in charge of something that has to have it has 100-year memory and has 100-year future. You're literally thinking on 200 years of spans between your history and your future.
Forecasting things that will outlive your tenure
Mm.
of the space that you work is interesting, right? Because it is what you think about what's in front of you right now, and we can project out maybe the next 5 years or the next 10. But when you're talking about something that will continue to live on and you for 30, 40, 50, 100 years,
Mhm.
by the decisions that you make now and putting in the infrastructure in place, um, it is, I think you have to understand the responsibility that comes with that, right?
Mhm.
And being a good steward in the space, being a good steward in your community requires you to do the necessary work to make sure that it is not about you. It is about the health and wellness of everything that your community is. You
Mm.
know, I'm a person that grew up in this town. So I love Park Forest because Park Forest helped shape me into become the person that I am now and will continue to be. Right.
Yeah.
But it's a weighty task, right? It's a weighty task, and I think us in this space, we resoundingly get the responsibility behind it. Right?
Mhm.
It's not about the person that's at the top, right? It's about everyone else that's on that bus, everyone else that's on that train that's moving in one direction, um, understanding the responsibility of what we do. And I think on our end, we have to, we're really being, we really, I think, started to take accountability for making sure that what we do lives on far past when we do,
Mhm.
right? You know, and it's a challenge, right? It's a challenge, but I think it's a challenge that everybody in this space really kind of understands, right?
Yeah.
You know, we understand that it's much greater than us.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, because what you're working on is going to last whether, it's whether you're putting in problems that are gonna blow up 10 years from now or you're doing something that's gonna benefit the community for the next 50 to 100 years.
mm,
It is a big responsibility. Um, okay, so, man, time is flying. We're at the 37-minute mark. Let's get to the next one, equity, and this is a topic
here we go. It's the big one.
yeah, it's the one that can be politicized, misunderstood, but I really want to frame how Parks and Rec thinks about equity when we're talking about equity, inclusion, that kind of stuff. So, what you got on equity?
This is the big one. It's funny you said it's funny how there's been a common theme amongst all of these three pillars, and that's been things that could be politicized, right? There's parts of
Yeah.
the health and well-being that could be politicized, environmental sustainability that could be politicized, and equity as well. When we talk about equity, Craig, we're talking about the services that we provide, right? We're making sure equity in recreation and parks means ensuring that all of your residents, regardless of their race, their income, their age, their gender, their background, their ability, they
Mhm,
all have fair and just access to parks. They
mhm,
have fair and just access to programs, services. Once again, it all adds to supporting their health, their well-being, and their quality of life.
mhm,
And so I think when we talk about our space and we look at like what does equity look like in practice, we're talking about making sure that we have accessible facilities, right? That we're designing our parks, that we're designing our facilities, that they are ADA compliant, right? That they're welcoming to people of all abilities, right? But then you're talking about affordability, right? Equity, there's equity in making sure that we're equitable in making sure that anyone who wants to take part in any program has the ability to do so.
mhm.
We're not catering to just one section of our community, one section of our population. It is, once again, everyone that makes up your town. And you have to be cognizant of what your community is, right? And
Right,
who makes up your community, right?
right.
We're being inclusive, right? In our programming. You have to create events, activities that reflect the diverse culture of and the interest and the needs of your community.
Mhm,
Case in point, this past Saturday in Park Forest and like many other places throughout this country, they had a Easter-based event, right? And so the conversation that we had through one of the sub agencies that we deal with in our region called the South Suburban Parks and Recreation Professionals Associations for people in Chicago Southland
mhm,
was about looking at our events. Our event for since we've started it has been the Easter extravaganza, right? You just think
mhm,
that's fine, it's great. And then you thought about there's parts of your population that don't celebrate
mm,
the Easter holiday. Oh, how did that just fly right over my head, right? So
mm.
How do we change that moving forward so that we are inviting to everyone, no matter what their cultural background is, right?
Right.
I think another big one is like making sure that, and this is really important, especially in Illinois, is that every neighborhood, every city, every village, every town, especially the ones that are underserved, has the same access to safe, quality parks, programs, events.
Mm.
Making sure that you kind of have that geographic distribution, right? That everyone inside of that state, everyone inside of your community has the same access to good stuff,
Right.
right? That's what it is. It's good stuff, and you shouldn't have a playground that is unsafe, But that requires, money. That requires resources to do that. Making sure everybody has a voice.
Yeah. Yeah, and I can give 2 great examples here down south, both in Baton Rouge, which is where I'm originally from, and in New Orleans.
Baton
Um,
Rouge.
yeah. So Breck Park has been doing a great job, one of our great park systems of America. I think they've won the award 3 times nationally. Um, but let's just take soccer, for instance. It's a very Latino sport. But a lot of times when we think soccer, just as, a white male in the South, we think organized sports, 5th to 8th grade, with a coach and uniforms and soccer ball and parents along the side. That's not how Latinos think about soccer. They think about the whole family showing up and playing soccer on a Sunday with no referees, no uniforms, and you can come to Baton Rouge and see 7 soccer fields of this going on with Latino music in the background. It looks like grandpa's playing at this on the field with, and it's unplanned, unorganized. The only thing Breck does is keep the grass cut. That's all they wanted when they reached out to the community. But if you'd have reached out to, the Catholic high private school crowd that I came from, we would have wanted uniforms, age groups, coaches, referees, scoreboard. That couldn't be
Field meticulously lined and everything else,
right.
right?
Totally different
Mhm.
culture, and yet, soccer is really not part of the white culture down here, but it is absolutely part of the culture if you come from any Latin American and this is what they do. And the second example, I don't know how y'all are up north, but in New Orleans, the Black community loves barbecue, and they do it every Saturday and Sunday, and they show up with pits. And again, it's like a family reunion under these oak trees. It's gorgeous to watch how the whole community dumps into the park system, has barbecue, and it just looks like a mini family reunion every single weekend. All this is unplanned, by the way.
Mhm.
They're not registering with the park of I'm gonna be under that tree over there. So it just as an example of the diversity when you have to build something that's equitable and includes all cultures, this is what y'all are up against, and I know every city has its own little version of this playing out.
Right.
Uh,
You have to be you really have to be you have to be, there goes the word again, intentional in making sure that you understand the people that you serve,
mm,
right? And I think it can't, you have to take yourself out of it, right? I'm a person that grew up in Park Forest,
mm,
but Park Forest has changed a lot, and since I moved to Park Forest, and my mom moved here 34 years ago, right? Um, how do we meet the needs of that community? And some of it is as simple as, it's not always about putting out large surveys, right? We're going to put this survey out and we want to get, even in that, you have to understand, if you put a survey out, electronically, how many people in your community have access to the internet?
mm,
How many people in your community have computers, right? But understanding that when it comes going back to equity, right? Sometimes it's just simple as when you have an event that brings out 300, 400, 500 people, 1,000 people, just talk to them.
yeah.
Talk to people. Find out who are those key people in your community that have a real bead on their neighborhood, right?
Mhm,
And say, hey, what are some things, that you like to see over here? You know, what are some pieces of playground equipment? How has the community changed? But you have to really set forth intention to go out and talk to your
Yeah.
community so
Oh,
that you know who your community is.
I'm so glad you said that. And for those cities that haven't had this idea, maybe it's just an idea, but I cannot forgive me, I cannot remember which park system it was. I'm almost certain it was out in the West. But anyway, it might have been in Arizona. They said every single function, every festival, every farmers market, every parade, they have a lot of vendors and tables and stuff set up. And every single function, the Parks and Rec department had a table where they would do just that. They would go into the community with 5 or 6 park people. How are y'all doing? What can we do better? Paper surveys if they were willing to take, and we're just asking questions and taking notes. And that's what I would call boots on the ground in the community at the events, finding out what they can do better, what they're doing well, what they want to continue. And like you said, a lot of these people, either they're elderly or just don't have a smartphone hooked up to the internet
Right.
all the time. And so how else are you going to find out unless you go to these events that you're hosting? But it's to have the leadership there with the intention, and I love that word intentional, with the intention of polling the community live real time, being part of the community and their events so that you can better serve them rather than just sitting in some desk behind a screen, just kind of throwing stuff out there without even being part of the community or the events that y'all do. So I love that idea, being out and among your people.
I don't profess to know it all, and I don't think that any director or the executive director or whatever your position may be, you should not, feel that you are all knowing, right? I have it all. I'm all encompassing. No, you don't. Your staff doesn't sometimes, but you rely on input from other people, right? It's that
Mhm.
trading of knowledge, that trading of information, I think that makes you best at what you do. And you can't lose sight of what it is that you're there to do, right?
Mm.
And it's providing quality services, it's providing quality spaces for everybody to enjoy. And it's not about you. Take yourself out of it, right? And
Mm.
then go back to the foundation of, in order to find out how I'm best meeting the needs of my community, I need to talk to my community.
Mm. Absolutely. Well, I love covering those 3 topics, man. We can almost do a show, just an entire show just on each one of those. I'd like to
I'm
hear.
sure you will, Craig. I'm sure
Yeah,
you will.
I will. And actually, I'm gonna do one on this next topic. I have found that when I go to Parks and Rec events, it seems about a third of the leadership comes from the Black community, and that's an oversized portion of what they represent as the overall nation. And so, and some of my friends, Shonda Smith, actually kicked this off from New Orleans. Brilliant lady. She comes from the Black community. Was my first interview. You are
Right.
the second. I have been trying to get y'all to come onto the show and speak. So anything you and Shonda can do to kick y'all guys off the bench.
Oh,
And
I know
because
some great people. Oh, absolutely.
yeah, well, let's get them on here, but maybe talk about you know, any idea why there's an oversized number of Black leaders in parks and recreation. What pulls y'all into this industry? Is it, I mean, that's why I'm asking you. Is it the sports background? Is it being a part of an underserved, maybe overall community, want to make a difference? I mean, I can speculate, but I'd rather hear from you if you have any thoughts around that, because y'all have some amazing leaders in this industry.
We do, but I would actually challenge and say that we don't have enough. Like hearing when you said a third, I'm like, wow, because I think it changes upon region, right? In Illinois, I think you end up getting what happens is as your community shifts and change, and if you understand who your community is, you get people in there a lot of times that are representative of what your community is made up of.
Mhm.
I think that one thing that you noted, Craig, when it comes to our involvement in rec and parks, a lot of people, especially a lot of people of color, but a lot of people in the Black community will say, I was a parks kid, right? If you
Mhm.
grew up in Chicago and you attended, you had a field house in your community. You went to that field house and everything that was programmed was meant for it to be regional. You didn't have to go to the park that was 7 miles away from your home.
Mm.
Around the corner in that field house, you had a ball field, you had a playground, you had whatever amenities and services they set up for that part of your community. And so I think because we at some point in time became involved, right? Sports does a lot of it, right? I think we've lost, and this is one of the things I actually wanted to say. We have to be intentional about really screaming from the rooftops that people should skip the rooftops, from the mountaintops,
Mm-hmm.
that of what we do and why people should be involved in this space.
Yeah.
And understanding that a lot of people are new collar workers. They are not traditional. They didn't go to school and study recreation and parks or landscape architecture, right?
Mm-hmm.
You have people that came in from different backgrounds, like myself, okay, from business management, right? But was associated, of course, with athletics, with sports, but didn't even know this was an actual career. When you think about, where you can transition from playing or doing whatever it is, it's typically in that specific sports world. I can be a coach at the school level, or I can coach at, colleges or whatever it is, or do the travel AU circuit, but it's specifically in that sport. And not understanding that recreation is the foundation of all of it. You got to all of those different things because of what we established here in this space, in your communities, in your neighborhoods, in your parks, with that rec center, with that basketball court, with that ball field, with that pool. And so I think as we start to realize that we have to recruit people better that come from outside of the typical rec and parks world,
Right.
we'll continue to see more people involved in it, and be very passionate about it, because it's kind of hard not to be passionate about what we do. It
Oh
is,
my gosh, yeah.
it really is. It is really hard not to be
Yeah.
passionate.
Yeah, I'd like to say that y'all don't even work because y'all are it's when you love what you do, the struggle
You'll
and
never work a day of your life.
yeah, it's like the struggle and the effort is just part of the fun. It's like, you're struggling, you're striving for something that's meaningful and impactful, and to show up every day and do that versus amassing a mountain of wealth at the end of your life, and now you're going to start doing something purposeful and impactful. I mean, y'all get to do this every single day, making a difference in your community. And I love that you said a lot of people are park rats, park and rec kids, after school care people. Like, they were in this system from a young age. But I also like how you said, and I've never heard this before, I might steal this one from you, but new collar, meaning that a lot of, first of all, a lot of industries are just being born. Okay.
Right.
So, like, being an expert in AI right now, it was impossible to do just a few months ago, really. And now it's almost like a new profession and stuff. Parks and recreation, I think, still sits, unfortunately, in this major discovery career that people discover after a long time outside of Parks and Rec, that, oh, you mean I can do this for a living? I had no idea. But it's
Mhm.
an amazing industry to work in. And maybe we can close out on that, because we only have about 4 minutes left, but we're gonna have to do another show just on you, Kevin. Like, not all the stuff that NRPA represents and pillars
Right.
and stuff, but just on Kevin Adams as a man and his journey into this. So maybe you can give us a short commercial as to what's your why. Why are you in Parks and Rec? Why is this industry so compelling to you and can claim your life and
Yeah.
say,
Well,
you're gonna invest it here?
I will say this: it is as awkward as this may sound. When you think of work in different professions, I'll use education as an example, right? They will say, the job is great if not for the people,
Mm,
right? I could do this if not for the parents, if not for the administrative, stuff that we have to go through. If not for the people, and I could just focus on the kids, it'd be great. Conversely, I would say my why is the people,
mm,
right? It is making sure that we're equitable in what we do, no matter what your median household income is. You deserve good parks.
mm.
You deserve, manicured park spaces. You deserve, restored walking paths and biking paths. You deserve to have an aquatic center. You deserve to have a performing arts theater. You deserve to have free concerts. You
Mm.
deserve to have that. It's the people, right? Because that's who we serve. You know, my team knows we serve three key stakeholders, and the first stakeholder is the most important stakeholder, and that are the residents, right?
Mhm.
As long as we are doing right by the residents, as long as we understand who our residents are, we're talking to our residents. We are understanding that, you know, it's kind of like, you know, as a parent, you get used to saying no a lot. You're
Mhm.
like, hey, Ma, can I do this? No. Like, why
Yeah.
did you say no? Think about it. Sometimes, how do you turn that no into a yes? And I think for us, as municipal employees, a lot of times we get caught up in the of this or that's the way that we did it, and realizing that sometimes it is a yes, like and really challenging that no, that notion of the no. So I would say ultimately, story short, it's the people. It's the people. I love the people. I believe the people deserve every opportunity that, you know, any other community gets, and so I want to make sure that my people in my town get just that. So
Yeah.
it's the people.
Wow, what a great segment to end on, and we're gonna have you back to find out where that came from and your backstory and why you've chosen this profession and are doing such a great job over in, the great city of Park Forest, Illinois. Thank you so much for coming on to the show today, and, definitely connect me with all the leaders in Parks and Rec.
Oh, there's a lot. I certainly will, Craig.
'Cause I wanna hear y'all's voice, and I wanna
Right.
hear all the different, sections of America and the park systems. This is your platform, so appreciate you coming on today, and I look forward to having you back.
Absolutely. I thank you so much for it. Whenever, just let me know. I'd love to get on here. My staff will laugh and joke and say, because I know when I leave out, they're going to say he was doing what he loves to do. He was talking again.
That's right. Well, this is the
So
way you do it.
that's how you do it, man. So thank you so
Fantastic.
much. I'm honored. Thank you. I
Yep.
appreciate it.
Thank you for coming on today, Kevin.
Absolutely. You
Appreciate you.
take care.
Yep. Bye-bye. All right, so that was Kevin Adams over in Park Forest, Illinois, one of the great leaders in the state of Illinois. By the way, great job, Illinois. What an awesome state when it comes to Parks and Rec. They really are leading the charge. Of all the 50 states, I think everyone will readily admit that they have some laws that give them very good, stable funding, and they're able to pioneer a lot of things for the rest of the country. And so I find time and time again that Illinois is just doing a great job and produces some amazing park leaders and some amazing programs that the rest of they kind of experiment over there and do it well, and then kind of export that into the rest of the country. Not that we don't have some phenomenal states that are doing really well. Seeing that I just got back from Texas, and they just had their Parks and Rec convention, and then California, of course, always does an amazing job. Um, all right, so again, shout out to Kevin Adams for coming on today. I really want to have him back to hear his personal story of how he got into Parks and Rec, and maybe even more about his community. We can do something for him about Park Forest, Kevin Adams, like you see us do with a lot of the other leaders and park and rec directors and communities. I want to do that for his community as well and kind of highlight what they're doing over there, just because doing a great job. And we want to make sure that we kind of lift them up and showcase them as an example of what's going on here in Parks and Recreation. Okay, so as y'all know, today we launched at 10:45 a.m. the first ever facilities maintenance daily show. Is going to go Monday through Thursday. So I'm going to start getting experts, master craftsmen that are managing the sports fields, irrigation, aquatics, anything to do. Urban forestry is a great example. We've already got a show scheduled for that for the show. But if you know of a good vendor that say sells and reps and can explain well, I'll give you an example: robotic lawnmowers. These are the kind of people we want to pull on. I've also got a couple of directors that are using these, and they can kind of go over, okay, this is how we had to integrate robotic lawnmowers on this one field. And then we can keep rolling through the topics. Field stripe painters, smart cities that are coming in, like with Outdoor Link, one of our major sponsors, um, or LED lights, which is what I manufacture and support this whole show on. So please buy some LED lights from us, guys, so that we can keep this train rolling and really expand out the programming. But then it can be into, like I said, irrigation, wastewater management, almost every topic that Kevin touched on when he started talking about environmental. A lot of it comes to sustainable structures that last a long time, that we're thinking long term. And then who, that's the kind of the what, but then who are the master craftsmen that spend 20, 30 years managing a golf course, keeping clean an entire sports facility, or keeping all the neighborhood parks and fencing and all this kind of stuff done. It's just a massive undertaking. And this is probably half, I would guess. I'm going to figure out the exact number, but I would say half of the effort, money, manpower, resources, equipment is deployed on just maintenance. And this is what we want to focus on, lift up the unsung heroes and best practices when it comes to doing all this, and then getting some good vendors on here that are producing the equipment that this massive workforce needs to maintain these facilities. So that's all going to be Monday through Thursday, 10:45 a.m. Eastern. So we'll go from 10:45 to 11:45, and then at 12 noon, guys like Kevin Adams, Mark Flores, who we just released his. So if you haven't seen Mark Flores, go to our YouTube channel. Please like and subscribe so that we can go live on YouTube. We got to get like 1,000 subscribers over there. I think we're not even at 200 yet, because most of our people are right now on LinkedIn and Facebook. So I need my LinkedIn and my Facebook people go find our YouTube channel, subscribe so that this can be going live on YouTube for me, please. I think we're ready. We're ready for the ball here. So Mark Flores just had his video uploaded. That was episode 90 for City of Linwood, California. Go check it out. Give us a comment. And here's why I want y'all to look at that video. You'll notice it's been packaged. So our packaging is getting better. Shout out to Kathleen and Chris. They are our lead designers for a lot of this. And as they start to understand this industry on a deep level, because they're watching 1 to 2 hours of Parks and Rec content every day of their life, they're able to make videos and shorts, and then they'll go into, you'll see how they went into Mark's website and our City of Linwood's website and his Facebook group, Facebook page for the city, and they're able to pull out clips and images and really do like a 1 to 2 minute promo for the city. And this is put on the front end of his YouTube video. So much like the interview I just did live with Kevin, that's a 1 hour segment, but then we're going to do like a highlight reel. So what did me and him just talk about that kind of highlights? And so they kind of run a highlight reel of the show. Then they do like a little commercial for the Daily Parks and Rec show. And then if we were highlighting his city of Park Forest, then we would also say, and here's the agency, the Parks and Rec department. This is what they're doing. This is what they're called. These are their celebrations. These are their special events. this is the programs that they run there. And then we roll right into the 1 hour show. And then on the back end, we package it with something to tell you more about Parks and Recreation or our YPN show that might be coming up definitely coming up this Friday. So anyway, that's kind of what we're doing. Check out Mark Flores' just came out, episode 90. Please subscribe to us on the YouTube channel. And then this Friday, we have number 3, the third YPN special, YPN EP. And this is for our young professionals. Shout out to Destiny and Chad for being the guests on that show. I think we have Molly coming on this weekend. Hold on, let me tell you. I don't want to lie to you. We have Chad Norton and Katie. I think it's Katie. Yeah. Katie McCammon is also going to be our guest there. So we have another special for YPN this Friday, 12 noon Eastern. Check us out. And then we have, of course, it's Monday. So we're going to have a guest speaker on Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday for this one. We're going to have the maintenance show continuing on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. And then we are gearing up for this Financial Fridays. It's not going to be this Friday, but I'm hoping to launch it at least by the last week of April, maybe in the beginning of May, where we're going to talk about um, financial sustainability. And I think that's a very important topic. Sometimes it's a sobering topic, but believe me, there are park systems that are flourishing financially and have a bright financial future. We want to highlight them. We want to understand their best practices. And we're even going to highlight some park systems that have gone completely bankrupt, just fell off the cliff and had to like pick themselves back up and recover. And we want to talk about those stories so that if perhaps you're doing something that could be an unsafe financial practice for your community, that we can get ahead of this and course correct before we kind of crash into the iceberg or run this thing off the rails. And so we're going to do that on Fridays. On that 10:45 to 11:45 time slot. So appreciate all that y'all are doing. I did play, you know what? I did not play. I don't think I did. Anyway, I'm going to play it again. This is the facilities maintenance promo that Chris made. Let me go ahead and run this, and then I'll go ahead and close out the show afterwards. Welcome to the Daily Parks and Rec Show, where we highlight the essential work that keeps our parks and facilities thriving. From local ball fields to multi-use athletic complexes, field maintenance ensures every space is safe, ready, and welcoming for play and community events. Facility maintenance is the backbone of operational excellence, ensuring that recreation centers, playgrounds, and shared spaces are functional, clean, and built to last. Behind the scenes, equipment maintenance keeps vital tools and machinery in peak condition. At the core of future forward thinking is sustainability management, integrating green practices that reduce environmental impact and enhance long-term resource stewardship. Facilities maintenance is more than routine upkeep. It's strategic, essential, and foundational to building healthy and resilient communities. This is the Daily Parks and Rec Show, honoring the professionals who keep our spaces running and our communities strong. All right, so great job. Actually, I'm not sure if that was Chris or Kathleen. I think it was Kathleen that made that. They're both doing so good. I can't tell you how much of a game changer it is to have full-time content creators on staff putting in 40 hours a week. Along with a social media manager and someone in charge of networking and getting people onto the show and scheduling. It's a team of 4 of us working full time for this. So I appreciate all the help, appreciate all the love and support that we're getting from the overall community. Things are really starting to take off. It seems like every week we're living a month. So I appreciate all the love and support that we're getting from the industry of Parks and Recreation. Hope we're doing a great job for y'all. Let us know what we can do better. Please find us on LinkedIn. I think we're getting ready to cross the 400. Let me see where we're at. I think we're getting ready to have 400 followers. It took us like, holy cow, we did it. Congratulations. It just happened, like literally within the last hour. So it took us, when we launched the LinkedIn page, I think it was in January. So from January to now, or January to last Tuesday, we went from 1 follower to 300 followers from January, February, March, and last Tuesday. And then from last Tuesday to today, we gained 100 followers. So shout out to everybody that's joining and helping promote the show. We just crossed the 400 followers on the LinkedIn. And if you're not on LinkedIn and you're in Parks and Rec, there are some tremendous leaders going on there. So, and then we push all of our content on LinkedIn, in addition to Facebook and YouTube and X. But there's a lot of great professionals. Socially, I imagine they hang out a lot, and professionally a little bit on Facebook. But on LinkedIn, it's all about business, the business of Parks and Recreation. The leadership is there. A lot of great topics on there. We're on there. So if you're not on there, you're missing out. And believe me, we have our largest community is on Facebook with the Parks and Rec Done Right group, which we originally founded. Is almost up to 4,800 members. But I think LinkedIn is where a lot of business professionals in this industry are located. So please find us there on LinkedIn. You can also find us on, like I said before, on YouTube. Like and subscribe us there, and Facebook and X. X, I think, is the smallest community, more than news. Now, everyone knows I'm a Bitcoiner. By the way, if you're not in Bitcoin, check out my evening show. I'm a huge Bitcoin fan, been in it for, 7 years. And it is definitely, if you want to upcharge your financial savings account, there's a huge shift going in there. So I won't talk too much about it here, but shout out to all of my Parks and Rec people that have gotten into Bitcoin, that I've helped them out. I don't make any money off of it. It's just more of a service to humanity that I make content for Bitcoin, because I really believe in the mission behind it, and financial freedom pretty much for planet Earth. So check us out. We also have a YouTube channel called the Daily Bitcoin Podcast, sponsored and hosted by yours truly. All right. Anyway, I'll let y'all go. I will be here tomorrow. Check out all of our content coming out. Appreciate everyone. Kevin, you did a phenomenal job. What a rock star. Hoping to have you back soon, and looking forward to everybody coming on to the show this week. And shout out to everybody, my team members. We just crossed the 400 followers mark on the Daily Parks and Rec Show on LinkedIn. So great little milestone. Love you guys. See y'all tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.
When you invest in our high-performance LED sports arena lights, you're not just upgrading your facilities, you're helping us illuminate the untold stories of parks and recreation communities. Every purchase directly supports the Daily Parks and Rec Show, a media platform on a mission to celebrate the heart and soul of our local parks and programs. From after-school activities to summer leagues, these spaces shape lives, and their stories deserve to be told. Why your support matters. Capturing community impact. Your contribution helps us assemble a talented team of digital artists, storytellers, and filmmakers to create compelling videos, articles, and short films that spotlight how Parks and Rec programs change lives. Sharing untold stories. From a child's first home run to lifelong friendships forged on the court, we'll document these priceless moments and share them with the world. Inspiring the next generation. By highlighting the joy, inclusivity, and opportunities found in our parks, we foster a deeper appreciation for these vital community spaces. Light up arenas, brighten futures. Your choice to install LED sports arena lights isn't just a smart investment in energy efficiency and performance, it's an investment in stories that deserve to be told. Be part of the story. Take action today. Purchase LED sports arena lights and help us shine a spotlight on the heartwarming stories that define our parks and communities. Contact us now to learn more about our products and how your support fuels the Daily Parks and Rec Show. Together, we'll shine a light on the moments that matter most.